Previously on the Game On podcast.
And I think we had 70 players, to train. And that was hard work because it was getting to full time then. And I think we're training 13 days out of 14. We give them 1 day off every fortnight. So
that's generous.
Exactly. Well, we had to do that because if you look at the fitness level, we had to get to a certain level. And so then I think that went from 70 to 52, I think.
Yep.
From that point of view, and we had restrictions on who we could recruit and all that type of thing. So we had to make the most of what we had. So, and I think we, that season, I think the first game was against Hawthorn, and we gave them a bit of a shock. So
sure did.
But it was hard work because a lot of these guys have never flown to Sydney or Melbourne or Perth. So if you look at that, you're going away, then you're staying at a hotel, and you from that you're away from your family and your friends and that. So there's an adjustment there to start with. A lot of the games in Melbourne were played suburban ovals, Moorabbin, Windy Hill, Victoria Park. So they've never been there. So we'd always try and get there. The day we flew into Melbourne, try and take the bus out of Tullamarine and always organise to go to an oval. So the guys get familiar with it. So, but certainly, I know the funny story with Graham Allen. I rang Gubby before we played Collingwood, Victoria Park, and I said to Gub, look, we're coming in on Friday morning. Can we just cruise past before we go to the hotel to look at the goats? He said, no, you're not coming in. I said, sorry? He said, no. He said, no way. He said, not to let you bees bloody come in here and look at our oval. I said, well, most of the players haven't even seen the place. He said, I don't give a hell. You're not coming in. I said, okay. Little did Gubby know, I knew the curator extremely well. So I rang the curator up and I said, mate, listen, I didn't tell him I spoke to Gubby. And I said, look, we're coming this time. He said, can you unlock the back gates for me? I wasn't going to go around the front where Gubby works. I said, open the back gates up for me. We'll go around the back street and we'll go in and take the players in. He said, no worries, Mick, I'll do that. I said, what time will you be? I said, about 11:30. So off we go. And Cornsey says to me, you sure you organised? I said, yeah. I told him the story. He said, Gubby might go and lock the gate. I said, Gubby knows nothing about it. So in we go. We've all gone on to Victoria Park, and there's Gubby's coming out of his office. Well, is he giving it to me? It's absolutely. Like, you traitor, you. It was quite funny.
Oh, no, that's very well played, Kingo.
Exactly. So, but little did Gubby know that I knew the curator quite well. So he organised, and I thanked the curator after. It didn't help us, but certainly at least it was a bit of a step forwards for the boys to see the ground.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, once again joined by Malcolm and Michael Taylor, just giving us a little bit of insight into the way things work at Collingwood there.
And Kingo, well played, getting one up on Gubby Allen. Very, very, very well played by Kingo indeed. And, he was great. As always, very modest and very honest. And, he's a quality bloke. Really is. Amazing
how some clubs you play with them, you are everything to that club. You then go to another club, absolutely not. We're not doing a thing for you. It was absolutely good.
Fact, he's played 4 years, twice runner-up to Copeland, but no, etc. So, yes.
It was very good. Thank you to Kingo for that one.
Around the grounds.
On Around the Grounds today, we'll have a little bit of a look at Adelaide United, the SANFLW and the SANFLW state team. and a little bit more of a look at the netball. But we're going to kick off tonight, mate, with the AFL. Big announcement today. Tasmania are officially being granted the 19th licence.
Yeah, huge news. Look, I won't deny that I think it should be a relocated side. I've always said that. I will be honest, a little bit more information came out of things which have happened in the past with some stuff I'm doing with Uni Footy Club at the moment. And St Kilda nearly ended up down there a few years ago, which was because they were in financial troubles, and the link with Darryl Baldock and St Kilda, it did make real sense, but that fell away, and let's just say that person wasn't complimentary about North Melbourne as well, which was very interesting, following on Wayne Jackson's comments about North Melbourne. So there's a couple of damning things there about the Roos as well.
With obviously Tasmania getting a 19th team, it's important that this works for Tasmania. Do we still see Hawthorn and North Melbourne utilising Tasmania, so that way there's almost a game on every other weekend? Every weekend in Tasmania?
I don't think so. I doubt whether that'll happen because the Tasmanian government won't keep putting money in that. They've poured millions into those two, which made Sicily's comments pretty poor considering the sponsorship money they were getting out of it. Yeah, it was a throwaway line, but it was just a dumb throwaway line.
Absolutely. And obviously it's a roofed stadium. We talked about it a little bit last week, going the original plans weren't for a roof, and we did talk about the capacity at 23,000 and that it was probably a smart move to have a slightly smaller boutique stadium undercover, which makes more sense that you sell the thing out every weekend.
With supply and demand, there'll be to the demand. That way they can premium prices, your budgeting can be worked out on a sold-out stadium. I think it makes far more sense than 40-odd thousand and that personally. So, I've been a bit bemused with criticism there. People forget, hang on, the Americans with their population have smaller stadiums.
Yes.
It does work in terms of selling it out with complete season ticketing. What they'll do is probably sell out 19,000 and have 4,000 for the opposition, something like that, or 20,000,
which makes sense. Yeah.
So I think it's common sense.
I think the statistic I heard today being bandied around a little bit was that Hobart's population, 40% basically live within that Hobart metropolitan area, so to speak, whereas here in South Australia and Melbourne, I think it's up around about the 75 or 78%, and WA is around the 65 to 70%. So it does make sense that the number is a little bit smaller as far as that goes. And I think the atmosphere is going to be fantastic with a smaller ground. I mean, we saw that during Gather Round at Norwood Oval and the Mount Barker.
That was fantastic.
And we're going to see that at the Barossa hopefully next year as well. So it does make much more sense to do it that way.
Yeah, probably the one question, like Tim Harcourt has written a pretty comprehensive thing on the financial side of it. Probably the one thing they're going to have to improve and do a fair bit of work on apparently is their public transport in Tasmania. Their access down there is pretty poor.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see where they're set up to hopefully fix that.
But it's a bit of a case of if you build it, they will come. So, then that gives the government a chance to build their policies around and infrastructure around the stadium. So I think it's a bit of a win-win for all. And then obviously hotels in the area, shopping precincts. It can only be a positive thing financially for Tasmania, but the team 2028 is going to be the year that it's going to come in.
I must admit, I found it amusing, Colin Carter, with his bit, because he's done the paper and was the person pushing, that he's saying the talent pool's increase. Well, I'm going, hang on, there's more and more sides. Well, no, it hasn't increased. I thought that was a bizarre.
I think it just gets around the population. He did the study for, or the paper, I suppose, for Gold Coast, GWS, and I think Fremantle from memory, but potentially anyway, coming into the competition. A lot of that was based around, obviously, the population in Australia back in 2015, 16 is around about 4 or 5 more million people in 2023 or 2022. So they're basing it upon statistics of numbers. So I can sort of see where that's coming from, but really at the end of the day, grassroots is where it's at, and you really need to be building from the base.
And that's apparently they're tipping a lot of money to try and fix, because the Tasmanian grassroots footy has, hey, league footy's fallen away here.
Yeah.
Hey, but league footy here is still fantastic compared to down there. So it'll be interesting to see how much patchwork they can do to fix that.
That's a bit of the north-south rivalry that they just they're like kissing cousins sometimes.
Yeah,
that they just don't get on well, and it just doesn't work.
We sort of can't comprehend and understand that.
It's a unique situation.
Yeah.
I think that's what we've got to take into account, that the stadium that we built here in Adelaide, made sense. It helped the riverbank, it helped the city prosper. Obviously, Perth Stadium, Optus Stadium, almost the same. You can't compare those two because Hobart's a very unique environment.
Yep, spot on.
They've got a unique playing environment as well, so they've got to make sure that they're catering to all parties and obviously using the other grounds at North and South that they have been
it'll
using.
be interesting to see how they do.
It will be, actually.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Congratulations to Tasmania, officially anointed, I suppose, today, the 19th licence. So we'll watch that one.
I hope the Devils does get up. They're saying that it might get approved. It's the obvious name, so I hope it does get up.
That actually leads me to my last point on that one, was the name. What name were you hoping for? And you've just obviously told us. I'm in the same boat. I think it should be the Devils. Warner Brothers, if you haven't caught up with it, it's been all over the news. Warner Brothers currently hold the naming rights, I suppose, for the Tasmanian Devil, which seems crazy, but then again, an American company holds the patent for Ugg boots, and that's very, very Australian as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Is it a case of a bit of goodwill?
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
I will say on the funny side of it, I did like, out of all the ones today, I did like the Tassie maps. I thought that was quite clever.
Their underrating team is nicknamed the Mariners.
Yeah, and there's the Jumping Jacks with the basketball.
Yep.
So who knows? But, I just hope the Green Guernsey with the Tassie map and Tassie Devils gets up.
Yep.
Because you're actually then getting a new club with a bit of tradition.
What about, I heard one on the radio tonight on the way home from work, Tasmania United. Sounds a bit soccerish, but really, at the end of the day, you're trying to unite North and South Islands there. Maybe not. Anyway,
it's funny out of that. When Gather Round first got announced, I thought, what a dumb title. It's weak. Yeah, that really grew on me. In the end, I thought it was perfect. So, but Tasmania United.
And NRL having their Magic Round this weekend as well. So, I think Gather Round was probably the right way to frame it. And everybody did gather here in SA, and it was a huge event. So, all right, mate, we move on. Round 7 completed. Port Adelaide v St Kilda. Surprise?
A little bit. Look, I wasn't prepared to tip Port with Marshall out, and I thought it's going to struggle to kick enough goals. And then I still kept thinking, but they have got the wood all over St Kilda. Now, that now makes it 13 of their last 14. Port have beaten St Kilda. It's just funny how one team gets the real psychological bit over it. And fantastic. I am so jacked off with this ridiculous booing for Jason Horne-Francis. So I loved it that he dominated. And, I'm certainly obviously not a Port supporter. And, I loved it that he... The
young man got it, obviously, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And since then, he's gone to another level, but at the end of the day, he shouldn't have to deal with that there. Yes, I'm in the same boat. How can Port Adelaide have such an advantage over St Kilda in their last 6 or 7 outings?
Weird.
And I believe that their last 11 games at Marvel Stadium, they've won there.
Yeah, it's at least the last 8.
Yep.
Yeah, so it is.
It's somewhere in there. It's really
fantastic.
They might want to move from Adelaide Oval to Marvel Stadium, maybe. That'll
South Australians, we've always wanted to move Port out. So
it might work.
Yeah.
The Brisbane Lions defeating the Dockers, Freo.
Yeah, now 4 in a row. They're probably getting into form. I think Carlton-Brisbane's the game of the round this weekend.
Yep.
Because that's the question mark against Brisbane. They were poor here against Port, poor against Western Bulldogs down in Melbourne.
Yep.
So it's a big test for them Friday night.
Absolutely. The Swans and the Giants playing out an absolute thriller, and once again Toby Green dominating with the winning goal in the end. But, geez, his last quarter was fantastic.
Yeah, it was funny because I heard the score 4 up, and then I'd commentated under 18s game, was driving to Uni Oval and just didn't worry about it.
Yep,
checking the score, and Heathy went, "Hey, Giants are a point up," so we watched the last minute. there from there. And, and the goal, it's a great goal.
Do we take much from Sydney's form at the moment? I mean, injuries are obviously hurting them like a few other teams. But like I said last week, and I mentioned that GWS, I've been quite impressed with their endeavour. Once again, it came and it got them over the line.
And again, Taylor out. I thought, they'll probably fall away a little bit as well. So yeah, same thing. Didn't have enough oomph to tip them.
Adam Kingsley's got them up and going a little bit at the moment. Yeah, they're probably missing a little bit of talent, but gee, they're playing some really good football.
Yeah, they're having a crack.
Absolutely, and that's all you can ask. Do we make much of the Brett Kirk, Toby Green medal presentation? Not really. No, I think it was. It's one of those games that he wasn't too.
Jacked off the loss.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes it hard. The Western Bulldogs beating Hawthorn.
As predicted.
I think Hawthorn were pretty competitive again. So, they're having a fair dip as well. But, yep. Melbourne making an absolute mess of North Melbourne at one stage.
Yeah, pretty average Saturday night's footy.
It was, actually.
And it became the joke who was going to win out of Melbourne, out of West Coast and North Melbourne. It was a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Yeah. So the jokes were flying back and forth. Yeah, but a pretty average Saturday night.
I think at one stage I saw a little photo floating around that they had the score of the Carlton West Coast in the bottom of the screen, and they had the Melbourne North, and it was exactly the same score at one stage. So, a little bit of weird sort of on the other side of the country and the same scores sort of going about. But, Melbourne were very impressive, and, they did what they had to do, and I think they're building quite nicely as well. Carlton, I did say that Carlton travelled well to Perth, and sure did. Charlie Kerner kicking 9.
Yeah, mind you, I reckon you and I might get a game for West Coast at the moment. So.
I certainly agree with you that they're struggling in an internal trial, and I'm just going through some of our notes on West Coast at the moment. They're in big trouble once again. They've lost a player to suspension and also another couple of injuries. So,
well, they're saying that every fit player on their list is going to will play. They've only got 26 fit players.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that is unbelievable. All right, and then we move to Sunday, Geelong v the Essendon Bombers.
Yeah, Geelong just a bit too good, bit too good in attack. It was a high-scoring game, especially at half-time. I think it was 14 goals to 9 at half-time. Hawkins, I think, ended up with 8, I think.
Yep.
It was his greatest ever tally.
Yep.
Pretty fair effort with how many games he's played.
Absolutely.
And he's just in real good nick again now. Started the season slowly because he did very little pre-season.
Yeah, I heard Chris Scott talk about that on Monday night. He was saying that the decision to let him build into the season and have a couple of weeks, they had a young fella that's coming up and coming. They wanted to sort of play him early on the season, give Hawkins a bit of time. He got injured just in the pre-season. And the decision was, no, we'll play him and we'll build him into form. And wow, this week was a shining light. But I suppose that highlights Geelong's forward line, isn't it? That Cameron can bob up one week and he can kick six or seven. He has a slightly quieter one. Hawkins bobs up and he kicks 6 or 7, or in this case 8. So
and Stengel's out injured.
That's the scary part as well. So Geelong, building quite nicely. Dangerfield obviously started the season pretty slowly, but again, we talked about it a bit last week. Oldest list last year, did play obviously right through to the grand final. They did start a little bit later than most teams, and they have just taken those few weeks just to find their feet.
Geez, he's away again, Dangerfield, and can I put him at about $1.01 to get BOG this week?
He could be very, very close to it. He's like a fine wine. He's getting better with age. The Suns v Richmond. This one was my surprise for the weekend.
A little bit, but again, I tell you what, and I am pleased this has come back to haunt. Hardwick's comments against Marvel Stadium a couple of years ago were just so dumb, and that he's allowed, effectively, the players have got an escape clause.
Yes.
We don't want to play
That was what I was going to ask.
Just ridiculous.
Does that play on the player's mind going, well, he's already sort of said that we don't like playing there, so we don't like playing there.
It's just dumb.
Absolutely. And the Suns, I think, fantastic to win on the
good.
road.
Yeah.
We did mention it that, it was a bit of a toss of the coin, and there were a few key matchups that were going to decide the game. And, I'm really impressed with the Suns this year. I think they've done well. And that was without Tuke Miller, which is one of their guns as well.
And, look, while you'd expect Melbourne to beat them up there, you'd give them an outside chance.
We moved to the last game of the round, which was much anticipated. The first game of the round was anticipated, and then the last game was much anticipated. Adelaide shot themselves in the foot, losing obviously by a point. But early on, they had some real easy chances at goal, didn't they?
Oh, they should have been 7-8 at halftime, game over. I will say, though, that their kicking for goal, deplorable, but the coaching, deplorable. I think this is Matthew Nicks and their coaching panel's worst coaching performance for the year and overall. To one selection with I'm going on about it, but McHenry got votes in the last game he played. Murphy's playing in front of him. For mine, Murphy's just the honest battler.
Yep.
McHenry's far more off for 4, but at least that's just opinion.
Yep.
But I'm sorry, to take Saligo off was a massive error, which Nicks at least has a bit
He
of
has
sense.
come out tonight and said that, if I had my time again, that was not the trigger I'd pull.
Big beef is Riley O'Brien. And I can't believe he got 3 coaches' votes. He has not improved his ruck craft since day one. Mm-hmm. You knew Adelaide were going to win the tap-outs. Why are you just hitting into the same spot? Where's your variation? All O'Brien does every time it's hit to 9 o'clock, where's the variation? You're going to beat Frampton in the ruck. Mm-hmm. Belt shit out of it. Go forward a bit.
Yep.
Surely you can vary your craft enough to knock it out wide at 3 o'clock on the other side. And 12-0 at clearances in the last quarter when Adelaide are winning the hit out is deplorable. The midfield very much on notice as well, but poor ruck work. And they went just too defensive. They tried to save the game. Instead of going at three-quarter time, they're 16 points up.
Yep.
If we kick 3 goals, we win.
Yep.
Why have they they played Dawson so deep in that last quarter and then virtually invited Collingwood have run over Eston the week before, instead of going, hang on, we know they play the game out. We've got to kick goals.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Dumb.
I'm going to give a little bit of a difference of opinion, I suppose, with Riley O'Brien, because I sort of agree with you in some respects. But there has been a changing of that midfield. Now, you've got players that are coming in there like Rochelle. Pedler, has he played done a couple of bounces? You've got Sloaney coming back, obviously, and a few new faces in there. Is it a case of that they haven't spent enough time together yet to understand that ruck craft, or is it a case of get together before the bounce? I'm going here. Let's go there.
For mine, there just hasn't been enough practice of variation. Where was the courage to practice in the week? Right. Riley's going to win in the ruck this week, boys. Yep. We're going to be aggressive. Mm-hmm. Where's Riley? Belt shit out of it. Well, let's gain 30 metres.
Yep.
You're meeting Riley Thilthorpe at pace and giving off. Let's get there. Yes, Riley, come on.
Yep.
You've got Matty Clark as one of the coaches. He's one of the great who tap rucking was the one thing he was good at.
Yes.
Surely out of that there should have been some variation.
Yep.
You know, for mine, they had to just be more aggressive and practice that they were going to win the tap. Now let's practice their variations.
Absolutely.
For mine, they didn't. They just kept doing the same thing.
Do you see Thilthorpe being more proactive with some of that changing of the angles, changing of the
I think
tactics?
so in time.
Yep.
But he's still got to beef up a bit more.
Yep.
But, yeah, I think we thought the showdown game was going to be his breakout game, and it hasn't really worked after that since. And a little bit greasy on Sunday, so I would have used Thilthorpe a bit more.
Yep. You talked about, and I totally agree with you, that Adelaide tried to save the game. Yep. It was almost like they knew Collingwood were coming, and it was like, all right, we've done enough. We're going to batten down the hatches, and we're going to absorb everything that comes at us. Wrong frame of mind.
Oh, very much so.
Yes, they'd been missing goals, but they'd been playing.
They created the opportunities.
Yes, correct.
Come on, guys, let's capitalise on the opportunities. Let's finish off. Right. Be aggressive. I thought it was really poor coaching and, poor execution.
Okay, so then my question becomes, was Collingwood's perceived pressure, because we know that they're going to come no matter what happens, that they've done it time and time and time again, that perceived pressure almost frightened Adelaide into playing too defensively?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
so
I
that's
agree.
a learning curve for the Crows in this case.
Yeah, I just think they should have been better. I think they weren't prepared enough for what was bloody obvious.
Yep. You knew they were going to come. It was just a matter of
where's the practice?
Well,
on that they were going to win the rack tap out. That's what I'm coming back to.
Yep. I would have been along the lines, and we saw it the week before where Nick sort of said, hang on, no, let's just see how this plays out. I would have said, go attacking as much as you possibly can.
Come on, guys.
And if we lose it, we lose it.
Yeah, very much so.
And if you see that, and as a Crows supporter, you see that, hey, they took the game on and Collingwood were better at it.
And believed in themselves.
Yep. If Collingwood were better at it, then
very much so.
You go, you know what? Hey, we sort of lost to a better team on the night and we gave it everything we could. Yes, we messed up with some missed easy shots, but really at the end of the day, if you keep playing that way and creating those opportunities, those missed shots all of a sudden turn into goals.
Yep.
Very
more.
All right, we'll move on, absolutely. And look, a good learning opportunity for the Crows on that one. We move on. Round number 8, Carlton v Brisbane.
Toss of the coin job. At this stage, I'm going to go Brisbane, but it's a real toss of the coin. You really...
Yeah, me too.
I haven't made up my mind on that one.
All right. It's in Melbourne. Look, I think... Look, the team that travels back from Perth is usually the one that struggles a little bit, and I reckon Carlton might be in that boat, and I reckon Brisbane are up and about. So I'm going to put Brizzy as well. Richmond v the Eagles.
As I said, I wouldn't tip West Coast against themselves, so I'll still go Richmond. The big one, Geelong v the Crows. Considering it's at Cardinia Park, Geelong easily.
Do we give Adelaide any chance?
Not down there.
No, and we talked about this just briefly before we came on air. Adelaide are thinking about potentially giving a little bit of a rest to Rory Sloane, Tex Walker, and Laird. Do you think that's a good game plan or not?
No, because I can see that if they go down there and get thumped, you're even and you're losing confidence. And I think last week's game will end up costing the spot in the 8 at the end of the year. But at the moment, I reckon that'd be a real. I'd rather take Geelong on. Go, righto, guys. We should have beaten the top side. We should be top at the moment.
Well, that's what I was going to lead to.
Go with that approach and go, right, we're going to take them on. Guys, we're due. We've lost our last whatever here. We're due to have a win. Let's have a crack.
Absolutely. And you took the words right out of my mouth there that there is a big opportunity there that they could not create an upset because anyone can win on the day. But, you know, I think the stat was 2003. They haven't won at Cardinia Park since 2003. So there is a good opportunity. And you're right. If they beat GWS and they hold on last week, they should be a game clear on top. So they are playing well enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. At GMHBA Stadium is a whole different kettle of fish. So, yes, Geelong for me on that one. The Suns v Melbourne.
Yeah, I'll go Melbourne, but as I said, I do give Gold Coast a very outside opportunity, but I'll go Melbourne.
Giants versus the Bulldogs, mate.
Yeah, I want to see the sides on this one, but at this stage, I'm going to go the Giants at this stage.
It's at Manuka Oval.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a toss of the coin. I'm a bit with you.
I want to see the sides.
Look, I'll go the Bulldogs just because I can.
And they need the win.
Yeah. And you'll go the Giants. No worries.
At this stage.
Fremantle versus Hawthorn.
Yeah, I'll go Freo. I'll go Freo, but geez, my tipping on Freo this year is Scheisenhausen.
Well, mine's a bit like that with St Kilda. I didn't give them too much chance early on the basis that they did have a few injuries, and they've certainly proved me wrong. Port Adelaide v Essendon, Adelaide Oval. I'm actually looking forward to this game.
Yeah, Port get Marshall back, and I think there's one other. They lose Dersma for about 8, so that's reasonably important out. But because it's here, I'll go Port.
I'm on the basis of Port Adelaide. I think they're just building quite nicely at the moment. Good to see that the players have responded. It's amazing that loss to the Crows really has lit a bit of a fire on a few of them.
Yeah,
it's not the first time that's happened. Back in '97, I think
Crows lost.
The Crows lost to Port, and then they went
Western
on.
Bulldogs the next week with Wren's comeback.
Yep. So very, very interesting there that's happening. Mate, I've been really impressed with Jason Horn-Francis's reply to a lot of the booing, and we have talked about that briefly before. So he's on a bit of a golden patch at the moment.
Essendon will approach this that they beat Melbourne here in Gather Round and were very good. So I reckon that'll be the coaching strategic bit this week. So, yeah, but I'll tip Port.
Do you see Essendon as a little bit of a surprise packet? I mean, they were pretty good in the Anzac Day clash, and they've been reasonable most of the year.
They've been reasonable, so they've been,
Have you noticed any tactical changes from Essendon this year from last year with Rutten coaching?
I've got to be honest, I probably haven't watched them closely enough. Yeah.
The only thing that I've seen...
I don't normally sit on the fence. But
No, that's right. The only thing that I can say that I've seen differently is their forward handball. They're not going backwards as much to gain ground. They look like they're going forward and taking the game on. I think it's actually serving them pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, Collingwood v the Swans. This is a big game.
Yeah, I'll go Collingwood. Collingwood, it's at the G.
MCG.
I'll go Collingwood.
Yep. And North Melbourne v St Kilda.
Yeah, you can't tip North. I'll go St Kilda.
Perfect.
And a few injuries last week, North Melbourne, a couple of bad ones too. So, yeah. I think Comden was out for a long time. So, yeah.
And St
horrific
Kilda.
ankle injury.
All right, mate. What's the match of the round that you're looking forward to?
I actually think Port Essendon. I think that's the potential for the closest game.
Yeah, I'm with you a little bit on the Port Essendon game, but I also think that the Carlton Brisbane as well. Yeah, that's the one I was going back up to.
Yep.
They're the two that I'd be looking at as well. So
a
bit of a watch and see on that one.
Yep.
All right, mate. We move on. SANFL.
Yeah, Glenelg is too good for Norwood. Norwood struggling. We admit that.
So we'll go in reverse order. Norwood v Glenelg down at
the Bay.
Bay. Yeah, it was a game that I think we went in with the right attitude and played the right way, but Glenelg were just a little too strong in the end.
Yeah, I admit I sort of Norton 3. I couldn't work out why. Matty, I understand why you have rules and let's do this amount, do that amount, so it's set structures, but I don't really get who I still think the guy is still arguably the Norwood's most important player playing reserves on Saturday. I don't quite get that.
Did kick 3 goals. Matty Panos we're talking about there. So, yeah, very interesting. All right, we'll continue in reverse. Port Adelaide getting their first win against West Adelaide out at Loxton.
Yeah, apparently reasonable numbers again for the Russell Ebert match effectively at Loxton, which is great. Mm-hmm. So, look, I was surprised Westies beat South the week before, so I'm not really that surprised that Port won. So
great to see the SANFL taking it to the country grounds.
Yeah, I think so.
Norwood v West coming up in a couple of rounds' time as well. So North Adelaide just starting to get on a little bit of a roll against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Look, that prospect, so it wasn't a surprise.
No, not at all. I think they're still arguably the team to beat. Sturt have been very good, and Centrals have probably been the surprise packet.
Yep.
Sturt just got over Centrals in the end.
They did indeed, 60 to 63.
Behind. Yep. They're really united. I'm impressed with Sturt, impressed with Sue Dewing. I think she's a great operator.
Yep.
A lot of respect. I'll probably see her tomorrow, Friday night at the opening of Wheelchair Footy. I'll be along there at Lightsview. Looking forward to catching up with a few of the guys.
And we've talked briefly about the redevelopment there at Unley Oval. They've done it bit by bit and have done a really good job. I do know Sue as well, and she is a very, very good operator. And Marty Matner's got them absolutely humming along at the moment. And, to come from behind there to beat Centrals by 3 points was a pretty good effort. And Adelaide defeating South Adelaide.
Yeah, look, I was amazed when Adelaide lost the week before. I think they took Centrals a bit lightly and they missed a lot of goals. I think their small forwards kicked something like 214.
Yep.
With the lack of injuries Adelaide have had, yes, they should be dominating the SANFL.
Absolutely, and obviously the inaccurate goal kicking followed through to the AFL side last week. But anyway, that's a totally different scenario. All right, this week, I'm actually looking forward to this one, the Bulldogs v the Bloods.
Yeah, I'll go the Bulldogs.
I'll go the Bulldogs as well. North Adelaide v the Crows. Good test.
I want to see how many Adelaide rest. If Adelaide go in at reasonably close to full strength, I'll tip Adelaide.
Yep.
If they rest 3 or 4 and take a couple other travels,
then North Adelaide.
Then I'll go North.
Yeah, fair call. The Panthers versus the Tigers.
Probably have to go Glenelg at this stage. South have been a bit disappointing the last couple of weeks. So at this stage,
I'd probably have to say Glenelg as well. And a short trip there for Glenelg up to Flinders University Stadium. Traditional rivals, Norwood v Port.
Panos will play, so for mine, that'll be enough for me to tip Norwood.
Is he the general? Is he the man that is a bit like Pendlebury and Dawson and just directing traffic a little bit to Twig's game plan?
No, it's probably not really. I don't think that's Matty's
No.
personality quite as much. Probably he's a bit quieter the way he would do it than Pendlebury and that. I
Yep.
think he still does
Yes,
direct,
yep.
but it's probably just more in his own
Yep.
more quiet way.
Right, so not as open with it, more of a up behind a player, whisper in the ear and, hey, just get to that area, get to that spot.
Or even pointing
Or
space.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it'll be an interesting. I hope Norwood win their first game for the season this year, which would be amazing. And to get one up against Port is obviously one that we definitely want, and especially down at Alberton too, which is always a good contest down at Alberton. And the last game of the round, which I think is probably for me the game of the round. I was probably looking forward to the Bulldogs Bloods game just to see how that sort of panned out. But this one I'm really looking forward to, the Eagles versus Sturt.
Yeah, I'll go Sturt. Sturt have been very impressive. Eagles a little bit
up and down.
So I'll go the Blues, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles get up.
I'm in the same boat. I think Sturt are just building quite nicely, and yeah, we talked about again those 2 or 3 teams at the beginning of the season that might actually be around the mark. These 2 teams are definitely there, but I think Sturt are just going along a little bit better at the moment. All right, mate. We move on. Cricket. What's coming up with cricket? We've got the Ashes series, but we've also got the World
Test Championship. Yeah. So that's in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
So that's funny. It's probably a good grounding for the Ashes to have a Test match and that. So yeah, against India, Bumrah has failed his fitness test for India, so that's a big out for India.
That's huge.
So at the moment, interesting that Hazelwood's made his comeback in the IPL. I'd much rather him over in England bowling overs, getting overs under his belt than 4 overs in hit and giggle cricket.
Yep.
Probably shows my thoughts on 2020 cricket.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But, obviously coming back, just bowling those short stints may be a good building block for obviously.
I reckon he's got to get bowling under his belt and get some decent long spells.
So not just net practice.
Yeah, no, I think you've got to get some bowling into
And
it.
you'll know this a little bit better than me being a cricketer, is he an opportunity to play some county cricket in England?
Well,
or will it be a little bit too soon?
I don't think he will because of his IPL contract.
Right. Wow.
So
that makes it very, very hard.
That's a bit silly.
Mate, there was 5 players. I read this one the other day. There was 5 players a little bit unlucky not to get a bit of a trip over for the Ashes. Matthew Kuhnemann.
A little bit, but then I wouldn't have taken 3 spinners to the Ashes. I can understand him missing out. I thought Murphy had to go before him, so I do get that one.
Sean Abbott?
No, I'd go more Michael Nesser than Sean Abbott as the all-rounder. Mm-hmm. So I think Nesser's bowling for mine's a bit more suited to England conditions and with the Duke ball than Abbott. So I don't think Abbott. Bancroft for me was the most unlucky one.
Sure. Peter Hanscom?
A little bit, but his batting probably, I can see why he missed out.
Yep.
Bancroft for mine, I think should have been picked.
My next one is Nesser.
Yeah, I thought Nesser was unlucky.
And the last one on my list, Cameron Bancroft.
Yeah, I thought Bancroft. You want players to dominate. You call for players who you're not picking, right? You've got to dominate the Shield competition, and he's been the leading batsman in Shield cricket the last 2 years.
Yep.
Well, surely, especially this last season, and I think his technique of hitting across his front pad and getting caught at leg slip. I think he got caught at leg slip 5 times last season.
Wow.
Which is a bizarre way to get out once, let alone 5 times. So it showed that there was a real weakness.
Yep.
And for mine, his bat did come through straighter this year. South Australia actually beat Western Australia in the Shield game here.
Yep.
So actually watched and he batted well until he got out. But for mine, he deserved to be picked.
Is it a case he's still paying the price a little bit for the indiscretions in South Africa? No, I don't want to bring it up because, it was a while ago. They've done the time, done the crime. Well, I get that part of it.
Not when Warner's still playing. Yep. If you decided not to pick Warner, I would say yes. But
and same with Smith. Obviously not captaining. He did end up getting captaining as well.
Yeah, I had Smith a level lower. I get where he's gone. Oh, God, I've had a guts full of his crap. I don't want to know about it. I get that. I really do. But for mine, Warner and Bancroft were the 2. And you've continued to pick Warner, so therefore Bancroft plays.
Sure. Just offering an opinion on that, just wondering whether you thought that might be the case.
Probably the one other thing for the Ashes is there's a word around at the moment that England are going to play with 60-metre boundaries, which is marginally bigger than this room we're broadcasting from. Pete.
Okay.
So that's a really weird one. That's apparently meant to suit England's attacking batting tactics. So I find that it's just a rumour at the stage, but let's wait and see.
That'll be very interesting to see if that does weird. Actually come to pass.
Basically, it really means with the bat quality now, even mishits will go for 6.
Yep.
It's going to have to be a shocking mishit to get a guy caught on the boundaries.
I would have thought it would play into Australia's hands a little bit when it comes to aggressive. I mean, you look, all right, we don't know what the starting 11 are or the starting 12 are at the moment. But there is some aggressive batsmen in the Australian lineup that would absolutely relish at a shorter boundary.
Yeah, possibly Travis.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of straight away. Warner, if he gets going.
And even
Alex Carey.
Yeah. So, it is interesting. So, yeah.
How positive are we for the Ashes? Are we a silly chance, or are we a bit more than a silly chance?
I think we're a silly chance. I think England at home have got to start favourite.
Yep.
But I over here, Australia, yep.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the bar and celebrate already.
Yep.
Over there, I think it's England marginally.
Is it a case, and you did briefly bring it up at the beginning there, that the Test series, Test series final, is played in England, so they are getting some good chances to have a little bit of a look at the English pitches and the English atmosphere, and there's also some players obviously playing in their county cricket as well.
Yeah, it'd just be a little bit interesting. So that the Test final 2's at the Oval, not at Lord's, which no one can really sort of work out.
Yep.
And normally Oval was the later Test match in the series. So, yeah, it's interesting that it's at the Oval. So, yeah, wait and see.
Silly chance, but we give it a good chance, and we'll obviously talk about it as we get into that June period when they're playing. All right, mate, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome back. Soccer. Adelaide United missed a big opportunity, losing 4-1 last week to Central Coast.
Yeah, it's disappointing. They've certainly fallen away to the end of the year. Now just sets it up. Huge elimination final Friday night. Hopefully they'll rebound and then try and get back on a roll, but it's not a good final way to enter a final series to have lost momentum completely. But
Melbourne City, Central Coast, obviously winning 4 out of their last 5. Yeah. Adelaide United winning 1 out of their last 5 with a couple of draws there. Western Sydney winning 2 out of their last 5, and Sydney FC winning 3 out of their last 5. So, the finals are starting to take shape, and Adelaide would want to turn it around pretty quickly, wouldn't they? Just on a side note, Arsenal defeating Chelsea today in the Premier League. No real surprises there.
No, at least that still keeps a bit of pressure on Man City. So, but your money's on Man City.
Absolutely. We might cover a bit more EPL next week as part of our soccer segment. We'll move on. We'll spend a bit more time on the soccer next week. We're under a bit of time pressure tonight. But the SANFL had a pretty good weekend last weekend. Yeah.
Norwood, a good win over Sturt. And the under 16 and under the state girls of both sides have done very well.
They have.
Congratulations to the under 16 side.
Yep.
Beck McMahon coaching there. Jess Edwards, Anthony Wilson, and Ali Farrell. So knowing them all, so pretty rapt that they got up.
Absolutely.
So,
we did mention last week there were a few notable admissions from a few of the teams, and obviously they were on state duties. Fantastic for South Australia, and that breeding ground for new female players is looking really, really healthy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Violet Patterson, Stephen Patterson's daughter, who we will hopefully have a lot on one night. Also had a very good day as well. So, great results.
Fantastic. Going back to the results, Norwood defeating Sturt, South Adelaide defeating Glenelg.
Yep.
we sort of flagged that may be the case. The Eagles and West Adelaide had a draw, nil-all draw. Or sorry, not a nil-all draw, 21-21.
Yeah.
Another close one between Centrals and the Roosters, a point the difference.
Yeah, Centrals came from 3 goals down with about 7 to 8 minutes to go. So well done to Ben Hunt and the Dogs. So, yeah, they're around the mark as well, the Doggies.
They're up and firing at the moment, the Doggies. Probably the form teams with Norwood and South Adelaide, I'd say, at this stage. Moving on to round 10, the Eagles v Norwood.
Yeah, I'll go the legs.
I'll go the leggies there as well. Sturt v West Adelaide.
I'll go Sturt.
Yeah, I'll go Sturt too.
Yeah.
They'll have a few ins this week that'll probably just help them get over the line. Really looking forward to this game, the Bulldogs versus the Tigers, Glenelg.
Yeah, I'm commentating that game, so yeah, looking forward to that. So
that one's out at Glenelg Oval?
Yeah, at Glenelg. So got the 18s game first, so a couple of games on Saturday. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Tune in wherever it's being
SANFL
broadcast.
Now app.
Yep.
I'll go for the Dogs.
I'll go for the Doggies there. I think they're in a rich vein of form. And another one that I'm probably looking forward to is the Roosters and the Panthers.
Yeah, you probably got to go south at this stage, but
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, Jess Edwards will come back in for North Adelaide.
Yep.
Pretty crucial out as one of the select and that. So, yeah, getting Jess back might help there, but you probably got to go the Panthers.
I'm going to back a draw.
Okay.
We'll see. It's just something a bit different.
Yeah, why not?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game because both teams like to take the game on a little bit. So
hopefully.
I reckon we're in for a pretty exciting contest, and I'm just going to back a draw just out of the blue. I reckon that it's going to be a tight game, and I can't split them. So, all right, mate, and the netball. We'll move on to the netball. The Thunderbirds, once again, up and about, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going well. Equal top. So, look, they're selling out their home stadium. There's talk about that they may be going to the entertainment centre as of next season. So it's great for netball. And, yeah, look, so it should. How many girls playing netball?
Yeah, the numbers are staggering.
So you would thought that it'd follow on and get support at the top level. So it's great that it is, but so it should. So fantastic.
Heard the coach speaking on local radio here the other night, asked, is it a bit of a surprise that you guys are going so well? Yes, in one camp and no in another.
Yeah.
They've done the hard work. They've done the hard yards, and at the moment they're sort of reaping the rewards. So watch this space, ladies and gentlemen.
Definitely.
All right, we move on. We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we've got Brett James.
Beefy.
From the Norwood Football Club, the Collingwood Football Club, the Adelaide Crows Footy Club, and more importantly, from Kersbrook.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break. Past players, past legends.
We welcome aboard Brett James, Kersbrook legend, obviously Norwood legend, and Adelaide dual premiership player and also Collingwood player. And I'm trying to work it out whether you ended up cracking the 600 senior games milestone, Jamesy. You're certainly very close, but welcome aboard, Brett.
Hi, guys. How are you going?
Thanks for joining us, mate.
No, that's no problem.
We like to start with everybody, obviously playing in the Hills Footy League. Is that where you started your junior career?
Yes. Yeah. No. Well, yeah. Grew up on the farm and played. Yeah, for Kersey when I was young. I actually went and played for Teacher Gully. I think when I started, I was 4, playing under 14. So I didn't do much damage.
What started? How come you started so late, Jamesy? Yeah,
I know. Yeah, no. Well, Mum wouldn't let me play any earlier than that. Nah, it was just one of those things. I was just making up the numbers. And then I got to about 7 and I played under 8s and 9s at Teacher Gully. And then I went back and played again at Kersbrook. In the because we only had under 14s back then. So,
and you did play under 14s when you were 5, and you did kick a goal in your first year, Beefy, too. So that's not a bad effort.
As I said, that was I did not took a mark at the top of the goal square and just cleared everyone on the mark. That was about all I was good for back then.
Very good. Obviously, your ambition was to play SANFL football, and then obviously playing at the higher level as well. Did you have those ambitions as a young fella?
Yeah, I was a Norwood fanatic. So, yeah, growing up, it was to play footy for Norwood. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. Like, basically, was play for Norwood, and probably when you go through my kind of career and that, it's kind of weird when people say that was my aim. And today's generation don't understand. They go, "What do you mean, Norwood?" But back then, that was the SANFL was as big as any other comp in Australia. So for me, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play for Norwood.
And so, Beefy, you played at Norwood. So from about 12, you played in a couple under 17 flags in 88, 89, and then played Till Cup under Alan Stewart in 89. So,
yep.
Was that under 88, 89? Was that still staff? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I still had staff. Yep.
So go through that, Beefy.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, Coach. Basically, first year I came in, and as I said, I'd coming from the country. I was kind of one of the. We weren't too many to come down from that way, from Adelaide Hills. So I don't know. I was just making it up as I went along to a degree, just trying as hard as I could. And I was just lucky that staff played me a bit all over the place. When I started, I played a bit forward, kicked a few goals, then went back, played back for probably 6 or 8 weeks, forward for a month, 6 weeks, and then ended up in the middle and played there the rest of the year. And it gave me a really good development in actually being able to play pretty much anywhere.
Were you recruited by Nord directly out of Kersbrook?
Well, back then it was Norwood's skill squads. So I went back there when obviously from primary school. So I think I went down when I was about 11, and went through all them like under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s. And once when I came out of the 15s, I kind of rolled into the under 17s and played a couple of years of that. Yeah.
What about the Till Cup under Alan Stewart? Of course, Alan Stewart, an extremely well-respected junior coach. How was that experience? Yeah, well,
we played it in Melbourne the year I was. That was in 1989. So we were actually the game before the 89 State of Origin.
Yeah.
So the week before, I think I played in front of probably 150, 200 people at Norwood in the under-17s. And when we walked off the oval, there was 95,000 there or something like that. Wow. So it was a little bit different. But we beat Vic Metro that day, and it was definitely a little bit different. We walked off and we had pies thrown at us, and so it was a really good experience being able to play. Played at MCG, Waverley, and a few other Junction Oval, and then we made the final, and we actually got done in the final. When was that? That was on a Friday night at the MCG again.
Right.
Do you
that was when ovals were boggy. Like we were playing on muddy, crappy ovals, and we were all little fellas. So I reckon 4 games in the week knocked us around a bit.
Do you like the idea of the curtain raisers?
It was awesome. Yeah, for a young guy, playing in front of a big crowd was
absolutely
all you wanted to do. So, it was. I loved it.
And then progressing through, debuting in 1990 for your league debut. Go through that experience, mate.
Yeah, once again, I just got from 17s. I just got invited to the league pre-season, and just tried me hardest all the way kind of along.
So that was still under Barmy?
I still had my first year with Barmy. So as I said, as a young kid, you don't really expect to get to. You just see what happens. Just did the pre-season, and I think we had our first. We had a couple of internals, and then we were playing Glenelg at Balranald. The league team were going over there on a bus, and I was lucky enough to make the trip. And that was kind of, a fair jump from playing under 17s the game before and then kind of the next year. And, pretty much ended up playing a pretty big chunk of the year in the league team.
And then, so progressing through, then eventually getting picked by Collingwood, but opting to stay the extra year at Norwood in '93.
Yeah. No, as I said, I had kind of known. I'll be honest, I had no intention of leaving. I was pretty happy where I was. You know, my aim was to play for Norwood, and I was doing that. So I was pretty happy with how everything was going. And yeah, kind of before I got drafted, I'd spoken to quite a few clubs, and I pretty much told all of them I wasn't coming. So Collingwood, I didn't speak to, and they obviously picked me up. But most of the other clubs, I just said, no, I'm not. And it was a little bit different. A lot of people did that back then.
Yeah.
Because the lists were bigger, you didn't have to go straight away, and you kind of proved yourself over here before you went over. So, I mean, I think by the time I left, I'd nearly played 100 games.
Which I think is a great upbringing, personally.
So does that mean that you signed a letter of intent with Collingwood, or were you still
No, when you get drafted, I think you had to be there for 3 years.
Yeah,
right.
Like you're on their list for 3 years.
Right.
And if I hadn't gone that year, I think it would have been like, I would have had to be redrafted.
And then '93, Pete, I'll be honest, so go out and watch, Nord training, and Craigie admitted as well that he sort of got engrossed in the atmosphere. There was good numbers out for grand final training, and
yes,
I can honestly say it's the first time as a supporter we started yelling, "Get him off the track!" Now, Beefy didn't worry him. I've spoken about it with Brett since, where some of the other senior guys said they were flat in terms of knackered when they started the game. Mm-hmm. Where Beefy said, "Well, yeah, he was happy as a pig in shit. He was kicking the footy,
yes,
sort of thing." But it wasn't a great day, grand final day. I admit, I think we were in the bar by about 10 minutes of the second quarter, Beefy. I reckon we may have
it was a little bit, as I said, it was just one of those days you just don't want to get grand final day where it's windy one quarter and they got to kick with it that first quarter and they kicked 6 or 7, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It was 6 or 7 to not too much. And when that happens, you kind of, we'd come from the elimination final. Yeah. And as I said, it was as much as anything. I think it was that first quarter. I mean, who knows? You kick with the win yourself. That's
fair.
And then you get on the scoreboard and mate, everyone feels good. But when you're chasing tail right from the start, and they were a very good side. So
yeah,
we would have been pretty lucky to get over top of them.
Yeah, and Weed hurt us. Wiedemann played very well, Zilla. And I've got to be honest, I was happy for Simon Neve. I thought Simon Neve didn't receive the opportunity he should have at Nord, just personally, and Bruce Winner coaching him. So at least there was still a Nord flavour. We did drink our sorrows back saying, well, at least a Nord person had coached the Premiership sides.
I do remember actually being at the, what would it be, the northern end, sitting behind the goals and sinking lower and lower into my seat on that day. So I definitely remember that one. And, you guys did look a little bit flat that day.
Yeah, I mean, we were a very young side. When Craigie came in,
we were young.
He was that 91. He pretty much, to a degree, kept a handful of guys and then pretty much run a heap of young, to boot a lot of young guys, and a lot of guys came and went.
And the prelim final was a bloody good game against Port. So, yeah.
When we beat Port, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, to a degree, I think I'm only going from memory here, but I think every final they were always pretty tight, and we kind of overrun them. Got on top kind of, in the second half in most of them, I think.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it was a bloody good effort to make the grand final. But I just still thought we probably went over. And then, so you decided to go to Collingwood, and for the first time out of the family business, of course, the James, 5th generation apple farmers up at Kersbrook. Lovely place too. I've got to be honest. When I drove up to your farm that day, James, you're not that far out of town to be country. Mm-hmm. You're sort of city country, your
right
country, but you're not that far out.
But that's why
I reckon it was great. That's a compliment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know people that are country, and everyone goes from the country, and I go, I mean, I'm a country person, but I'm hardly a country person because in 15 minutes I'm in the suburbs. So, I've got friends from, say, the Eyre Peninsula. They've got a different perspective. They're their country. Yes. They're way more country than I am.
No. I thought that day going, I thought you've got the best of both worlds. That was my thought process going up, meeting you at the apple farm that day, where I thought this is sensational, and yet we're still, a decent screw punt from town. So I think it's great. So
yeah, I was only, as I said, it was never too bad. I mean, when I lived in Melbourne, I think it took me long to get to Collingwood, just in general traffic. Then when I was, it was 35 minutes to get to football training, which is nothing if for the time I lived in Melbourne, that was no worries.
Is it a little bit like Geelong? You had the balancing act of obviously being able to come down and play for Norwood in the city, but also head back to the farm on the weekends.
Oh no, he was.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was closer than that.
Yeah,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Sorry.
What's
Beefy.
that? Sorry,
I'm saying you were closer than that. It wasn't. You were probably from your place to Norwood would have been 30, only just over half an hour, wouldn't it? Basically.
Yeah, no, 35.
Yeah,
I'd get there in about 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so as I said, it was never. Yeah, like when people used to say, "Oh, you drive all that way," like a lot of people, went. And plus, when you are in the country, you kind of get used to like driving's not really an issue because you have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was never that far, and I always, as I said, playing footy, you go anywhere to play footy. So as I said, I was I think I was lucky to get drafted, picked by Norwood because I think they only changed the boundaries a couple of years before I kind of came through. We were West Torrens before that. So
that's true.
Yeah.
And then when you went to Collingwood, you worked at Vic Park as a curator. So that was something different?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So they had a district cricket team there. And they often used to have, or back then they'd have some state under 21, games there and that type and second 11 type stuff. So yeah, I used to look after practice wickets and the main wicket, and obviously during the football season look after the oval and all that. But it was really good fun. I actually really enjoyed doing that.
And you were a pretty settled member of the side under Lee Matthews as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Lee was kind of had a grooming me and had a spot, and I was gradually taking more responsibility. Like the first year, I said I went over there. I had really bad. I'd done all the ligaments in my feet for most of that end of '93. So I actually hadn't done too much. Well, I'd done nothing when I went over there. So my fitness was way behind where it probably should have been. So it took me kind of the first year to get everything kind of heading in the right direction. And then by the second year, most of the time I'd play a little bit and then I'd play the second half on the ball. So I think he knew I could play around the footy. And I think he was just, gradually building me up to where I could handle more time on the ball.
I'm trying to work out personally then, was Alicia there then, or you were moved over to Collingwood?
I only met Alicia when I came back.
Right.
Yeah, came back to Adelaide.
How was it playing under Lee Matthews? Just give us some insight into what he was like as a coach.
Oh, man, yeah. Like in terms of speaking, you just could never fault him. He just, obviously, I was a young bloke, but just how he always put words together and I mean, everyone's probably heard him on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, what he says is pretty much faultless, and it was kind of, I found it that same. Everyone kind of used to say that he was really, really hard, but I'll be honest, while he coached a couple of years there wasn't too often he ever really got, fired up. He was generally really cool and calm. Every now and again, if you did the wrong thing, there might be someone who kind of took a bullet for the group to get them up and going. But in general, he was just a really cool, calculated coach.
So a little bit similar to Barmy there, that he didn't go.
Yeah, well, Barmy was the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember watching Barmy.
Yeah,
you'd see him in the coach's box going off, and you'd think, oh, geez, what's going on? But I don't think Barmy ever really gave it to the group ever. Like the 1 year I played, and I mean, I was only
very rarely.
I was only a very minor role player, in my year with Barmy, so you kind of don't get caught in the intricacies too much. But in general, Barmy was, the same. He was got his frustrations out in the box, I think.
Yeah. Craigie could go off, but we'll move on from that.
Yeah, Craigie did go. Craigie did go off.
Yeah, and then under Tony Shaw, that was a little bit of a different experience, Brett.
Yeah, I think it was kind of one of those things. Like, sure, he came in and he had a lot of ideas and plans, and I kind of knew by about round 2 or 3, I wasn't probably going to. As I said, Lee, I knew where I was going, and whereas I think Shorey, I remember we'd played the practice games, and I'd been kind of in our better players for all of them, and I missed round 1, and I kind of couldn't work it out. So I spoke to him, and he goes, "Oh, we're playing a fast team, so we want to play all our fast guys. So but no worries." And then I had a reasonable game, obviously in the 2s, and we played Melbourne, who had Viney and Lovett, who were all slower guys. So I thought, well, I'm a chance here, and didn't get picked again. So I went, well, what's going on? He goes, we're going to beat them with our speed. So I went, well, if you won't play me against the quick teams or the slow teams, it's not. So it was one of those years that, people have that. Like, as I said, I think Lee kind of was pushing me in a direction where he knew where I was going, and then sure, he just had different plans for me. And, as I said, like, personally, they didn't make much sense, but that was the direction he went. And as I said, like, I didn't agree with Shorey, but, I got on really well with him. It wasn't like we had an argument and didn't get on. Like, that was just his perspective, so not much I can do about it.
No. Now, I did warn Pete before we started. I said when Brett was on it, I said, there's a very, very funny story how Brett ended up at Adelaide Footy Club. So I reckon you better fill, and Pete's been saying he's intrigued by this. So
don't tell me. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Go, Beefy.
Yeah, well, basically, Port were coming in 97, so my plan was to play with Rog because I knew Rog was going to be there. So that was kind of my plan going forward, that we'd both end up at Port Adelaide and get to play together. So I went on and I obviously spoke to Adelaide at the same time. But went on the footy trip with the boys. We went to Mauritius, and back in those days we got faxes. So Eddie, our team manager, he came on, was in the middle of one day. I was probably 3 or 4 in the arvo. He came over, he goes, sign this fax, and you'll be back off to Adelaide. So I was just thinking I'm going to Port because I was pretty confident that that's where I was going to end up. And I'll be honest, I didn't even look at it. I just signed it and then joined in drinking with the boys as we were over there, what we were over there for. And then I spoke to my mum a couple of days later, and she actually goes, "Oh, you're off to Adelaide?" I went, "Yeah, I'm coming to play with Rod." And she goes, "No, you're at Adelaide." Like,
oh, no.
Yeah, so I had a couple of days where I thought I was playing with Rod.
Wow.
And as I said, back then there was no mobile phone, so unless I read the facts, I probably wasn't going to find out until somebody told me. So, had a couple of days of thinking I might be able to play with my brother.
Wow.
But I'll be honest. I ended up at the right club because we were pretty lucky to be in that situation. The next couple of years.
And you actually stood him too at one stage too. I reckon in one of those first showdowns.
That was
we ran into each other a few times. Yeah.
So
the head-to-head battle there, obviously something that you relished.
Yeah, well, see, I'm a Norwood supporter. I was, like I said, Norwood fanatic. So I hated Port Adelaide.
Yeah,
good boy.
Yeah, so I'm even a bit like that. Even now, like Rod's played there, but like even now, like I think Kenny Hinckley and he gets a bad rap, and so sometimes I feel sorry for him. But then I go watch them and they win, and then I have to put up with the hearing. And I kind of go, I wish he'd not. Like it's hard. I can't barrack for him, but there's every now and again I get a bit of sympathy for him, and then someone will say something or do something, and I go, nah, I can't even support you, kind of in any way.
Yes, I know what you mean there. Yes, we look forward to getting Rog on, and hopefully we'll get a little bit out. That I reckon Roger's still got the red and blue in him as well and truly. So
well, as I said, we grew up. That's what we want to do. So it's kind of we were in that probably in terms of age brackets. We were in that group that grew up with a different mindset, probably to everyone from now. From once the AFL started, that was their aim. Whereas we were the last kind of guys that grew up hoping to play SANFL. And
then, so your debut game for Adelaide, you played in the middle. It's the only AFL game my wife's ever been to.
Right.
So there's a distinction for you, Beefy.
Good stuff.
And you played in the middle against Brisbane, and you had a pretty fair day out that day.
Yeah, no, it was a good debut. We had we had a good win. So, yeah, first up, it was good to be back home. And as I said, probably every year, obviously, my name was Beefy.
Where did that come from, Brett?
Story gave me that.
Okay.
The first year there. So they were into really heavy weights, like that, because West Coast had won the last few flags. And they were a really big, powerful side. So we were doing massive squats and cleans, and and I had a body that when I started lifting weights, I put on like my leg. I was quite big. so that I got beefy. And as I said, I probably did 6 months of weights, and then I don't think I hardly ever touched a heavy weight again because, I just had one of them bodies that, I bulked up a little bit too much and the game was probably in a changeover where it was, swinging back to being able to run a little bit more. So, so I played, I think I was 88, 89 my first year at Collingwood at times. And like when I finished at Adelaide, I was at 75, 76. So, it took me 2-3 years to kind of, because while you're training, it's hard to actually drop weight while you're still, you're still doing things. So it took me 2 or 3 years to get my body where it probably needed to be. So, that was probably like my first year at Adelaide. That's obviously the fittest I'd been. I probably went, 89 back to 84. By my third year, I was back to probably 80, 81, and then I kind of got back to that 77, 78, and every now and again I'd shed a bit more and get back to that 75, 76.
Was Neil Craig there as fitness conditioning?
Yeah, that was Craig's first year with the running. And as I said, when I first went over to Collingwood, everyone went, be an AFL pre-season would be hard. But I'd had Craigie.
Yeah.
So I went to Collingwood and it was actually easier than what Craigie. Like Craigie used to flog us. We used to run non-stop.
Yep. Wow.
So the Collingwood one, obviously the weights was a bit different. I'd never been done that heavy weights. But in terms of running, excuse me, running was, Craigie used to flog us. So running wasn't an issue,
See, Craigie himself. See, Craigie, we covered this a little bit earlier on a couple other previous guests, but Craigie and Phil Carman used to train up at the Hockey Oval when Kensington Cricket Club were playing in summer. They were the two fittest footballers in Australia. They were miles fitter than anyone in Victoria. Like Phil Carman, they reckon he could have medalled in the decathlon as a decathlon, and Craigie was incredible as well. So,
Craigie, his first year coaching Norwood, he retired. He played at North and retired the year before, and then he came out and he was coaching, and he still do all the running. I'll be honest, he used to flog me. I was miles behind him.
Yeah, he's an incredible athlete. So you came through. So 90, I still say Malcolm Blight's coaching in 97 after the Crows had lost that first showdown. Just to write 18 up on the whiteboard is one of the greatest ever coaching tactical mind games to have done. Guys, it's not the end of the world. There's 18 games to go. And it's, Sean Wren came back the next week and it really worked.
Blighty was just good because he knew every facet of football and I think it's rare probably that you get you get a coach that everyone actually just believes. You go, Blighty knows what he's talking about. So whatever he says kind of goes. So it was one of them, all throughout the year, Blighty would say things. And, the best part was Blighty, even at times, Blighty could fire up probably more than any other coach I've had. But, if Blighty overstepped the mark, he would actually come in and apologise. Sorry, boys, that in my era, that's what we did. And probably overstepped it. And you kind of respect him because you knew he was doing things for the right reason and you knew where he was trying to get you. As I said, Blighty taught me more than anyone else in terms of just the general knowledge of football.
Yeah, that's Matty. I reckon Matty Robberin describes him very well. If you could ignore the personal attacks, which some players struggle with, he was the best teacher you had. And you think back to about how to tie your bootlaces up and just things like that. You just were so left field. You just wouldn't have thought of it.
Yeah, Matty's a perfect example of someone who. It's kind of weird. I often say he could have been an All-Australian centre-half forward, but Blighty made him play at centre-half, stay and play at centre-half forward because that's what the team needed him to do. Yeah. And by doing that, we won two premierships.
He's very strict in his game structure and obeyed that game bit where Matty had to stay in that inner corridor and wasn't allowed to roam. And
Matty could have taken 15 marks a week between wing and half back.
Yep.
And everyone would have said how good, but it wouldn't have helped us win. So, so Matty did the right thing by, I've got so much respect for Matty because, the older you get, you understand the sacrifices other players make along the way. And it's kind of one of them things, that was for Matty. He got his reward, which helped us all get a reward, but you kind of go, he could have been a glorified centre-half forward and
massively.
Taken that many marks because athletically he was
incredible.
Athlete.
And that was even after breaking his leg. Anyway,
was the pitiful Pittman a bit of notice for everybody there? That was obviously quite public.
Yeah, well, I kind of missed it. So we were playing Richmond, and I was getting stitches at quarter time. So I missed the whole spray. I was getting stitched up, so I missed that one. Obviously, heard all the backlash after the game, but in terms of being there, I missed it all. I was getting stitched up.
But did it put the players on notice though? Did it come out to training the next week going, oh, geez, we better lift our game here?
Oh, it's kind of it's always one of them things. I'm a bit old, mate. You're always having a crack. If you're not having a crack, you're kind of not going to get anywhere. So that's why getting sprays didn't bother me because I always figured I was having to go anyway. So Blighty gave me a few sprays along the way. They definitely. The older you get, the less you worry about getting a spray. And then, if you're a young bloke, they cause you a bit of grief. But as you get older and you understand how things work, you know where the coach is coming from.
Yeah.
But you kind of go, I get you, and I probably might have to, I understand where you're coming from, but they don't faze you too much.
Yeah. And then, so you came back, you got injured, and then you came back right towards the end of the year, played a game for Norwood, and then came back in for the grand final.
Yeah, no, I was just lucky. I was just nicked a quad that was, it wasn't even nicked. It was a precautionary one that they said just have the week off because we were going okay, and it was still hanging around the next week in the same spot, and it kind of got to the third week. Because if I'd done it properly, that was my season done. And then basically Norwood, I think, had to buy the last round, so I couldn't play. Then they finished top, so I couldn't play. And before you know it, I'd missed about 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just happened to play. Well, Adelaide won the prelim on the Sunday, and that was I came back and played for Norwood against Port the next day.
Yeah. And then Modra got injured in the prelim, and you came in for the grand final. So always said you were the glamourful forward, Beefy. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't really a like for like. But as I said, I was just, it's one of those things. Or even in prep, I remember doing all the work and, with a hope that, we get to finals and you get to play on it. So I remember, there were times when you're just running by yourself and you're going, I hope it's all worth it. But you kind of, how you prepare is the most important part of playing elite level. So I'd kind of done all the work. So kind of once I got there, I wasn't phased. I knew I was kind of match ready to go, even though I'd missed a fair chunk of footy.
And you played well in the grand final after Jamison. You played down back, and it was like you hadn't missed a beat.
Yeah, it was that's the only time I played in the back lines all year. I basically played as a midfielder and up forward. But that's probably one of those things. Craigie, he started playing me in the back lines when he took over. So it was allowed me to kind of play, any position on the field. So they threw me back in the second half mainly, and it was a pretty good day.
Look, great day, but then your professionalism kicked in, and we'll get to your Hall of Fame speech, which I was privileged to be at. You really wanted to play in a Norwood flag, and you were switched on big time very early in the week. Probably a tad more than the certain ruckman who managed to play in both. I think your preparation was a tad more professional than than Keats. And
Keats,
and away you went.
As I said, that was my aim growing up was to play in a premiership at Norwood. So yeah, I was just lucky enough that I think Norwood beat Centrals on the Sunday.
On Sunday.
So I remember watching that out at Wavell, and I'd had a few obviously on the Saturday and the Sunday, and then it was pretty easy. I just stopped on Sunday night and went to work Monday, and I remember I reckon I was clutching sheep on the Monday, and then went to train on Monday night and just had a normal week. So missed out on all the celebrations.
I don't think Keats did. So.
No, he didn't. But as I said, growing up, and that's probably people probably don't understand that.
Yeah.
But like Norwood's premiership in some ways meant
yes.
I always say it wasn't as big an achievement as perhaps the Adelaide ones, but in some ways it meant more because that was growing up. That's what I wanted to do. So it's kind of a weird thing. It definitely wasn't as big an achievement as the two Adelaide ones, but for me personally, getting to play with Roger and those type of things, that was, it probably had a different feeling to it.
The cherry on the top.
It was, as I said, it was a pretty good couple of weeks.
With just going back to the Adelaide Premiership there, Shane Allen obviously up forward. Was that something that had been pre-planned during the week, or is that something that came about last minute?
No, Blighty kind of done it during the week. I've heard Blighty talk about it. He said he'd watched Shane play at full forward a couple of times for South, and he thought he led at the footy pretty well. So it was kind of one of those, a little bit out the box. I mean, it's kind of weird. I think Shane might have kicked one.
Kicked two at full forward and three from a half-back flank.
He kicked most of them from down back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kicked most of them when he shifted down to half-back, where he generally played. So, no, as I said, Shane had
it's quite bizarre that he kicked. Everyone says, oh, what a great move playing Allen at full forward and kicked five. Well, no, he actually kicked three playing on a half-back flank. So,
What was it like watching Darren Jarman go to work?
Well, we'd watched the week before. It was a bit the same. We were watching, obviously, when they played the Bulldogs. It was a bit the same. We'd kind of conceded defeat and put the white flag up at three-quarter time. We were watching all the injured guys were watching at Football Park, and we'd almost thought, oh, where are we going for Mad Monday? Like, perhaps we were all, that was the chat at the time, going, well, what's going to happen? We might as well start organising Mad Monday because we were 6 or 7 down, with not much to go. And then Charles just did what he did and, got us over the line, and he did it again basically the next week.
Yeah.
Was he as laconic on the practice track as he was on the ground? Oh, it seemed he was quite laconic on the ground. He was like Jars. Yeah, he was very, but he was also the most competitive. If you could play anything for, like, Jars was serious. But if you're just mucking around, it was just muck around. But like once you start playing for keeps, Jars was pretty serious with things. But he liked playing. I wouldn't say he liked training, but once you start playing, Jars was he was there to play.
Yeah, no. I was at Crow's training one day and down there, and he did make a couple of comments to me. He wanted into training, Fudd. So he's one of the few people that could probably have that attitude. Us average guys. If we went out there with that attitude, we wouldn't be even close. His ability was just ridiculous.
Isn't it amazing that Blighty had the same sort of relationship with Darren Jarman as he did with Gary Ablett Senior? About the training.
Extent.
It's just amazing that he allowed that to happen the way it evolved, and those guys got the best out of themselves.
I mean, Fudd did everything.
Yep.
Yes.
Didn't really like. He just did what he had to do.
Yep.
Whereas, as I said, I think Gary might have missed a few sessions. But like I said, Fudd would never miss sessions. No. He always did everything. But I wouldn't say he liked kicking the footies. I wouldn't say he liked running, but he liked kicking the footies, and anything to do with playing, he loved.
Then he was away. That's a better description. He was just he wasn't a footy nut in terms of doing extra. But geez, in terms of skills, he'd still practice kicking for goals till the cows come in, but not just the otherwise. And move on, and then 98, you because Norwood you weren't playing yet, you had the chance to probably soak that one in and enjoy it a bit more.
Yeah, I did. I had the full week where we got to sit back and really enjoy what we'd done. So and as I said, probably the first. A few of us said when you won the first one, I don't think you really appreciated what you done like initially, and then it was, then you got back to Adelaide and you went, wow, it was pretty special. I'd love to do that again and probably soak it up and appreciate a few different things, and to be able to do it the next year was just something you dream about. You don't expect it to happen. So
you kicked Beefy kicked an incredible goal in the prelim final, and few Western Bulldogs supporters are trying to say where it had come out of the lemon and SARS, and let's just say a few of us were Norwood supporters, and we put them back in the spot, Beefy, and just let them remind it was just a red leg magic coming out, mate.
No, it was asked, mate. it was hard, mate. I threw it on the. I mean, you know where the goals are, but you just throw it on the boot and cross your fingers, and when you have them days, it went through. So
don't worry, we just wanted to play along with it. Yeah, no, we just played along with it. Yeah, don't worry. We used it to our utmost advantage. And then, so moving on, probably I think it really surprised us that your career at Adelaide sort of came to really a bizarre, abrupt halt. It didn't seem to make much sense from the outside with 2000.
No, we just probably a bit like Shorey, just change your coach. And I was at that 27, 20, and it's one of, I always say, whenever you speak to anyone, I go, once you hit 27, 28 and you're a 5'10" midfielder, or pretty much anyway, if you're 27, 28 and you're not like one of the top like superstars, and if your team's not going anywhere, you're in a bit of strife because they're going to be playing young kids.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit. I mean, I kind of knew that, but as I said, my form and all that was, when you're playing, it doesn't make much sense to you. But I understand how they set up lists and do all that stuff. But in terms of how I was playing, kind of, my form was as solid as it had been in every other year. So. And
then you went back to Norwood and just dominated in terms of best and fairest in 02, 03 and 05, captain 02 to 06, but unfortunately there wasn't much team success, Beefy. It was a frustrating time as a Norwood person, mate.
Yeah, it was. When I first got my first couple of years back, we were around the mark. But, I mean, there was a couple of pretty, like Sturton Central were pretty good teams and like that, so and they just knocked us over in a prelim, and we're probably not stiff. They beat us pretty comfortably, but we were kind of an older group probably by then. And then once we got beaten in the prelim, a heap of guys stopped, and then then we bottomed out a bit for the next few years. So it was just one of those tough years. We had some good players. We just probably didn't have enough depth. That was probably our biggest issue. And
then you returned to Kersbrook, and really, we could virtually do another whole interview on Kersbrook because you've played 240 odd games you played 234 games for Norwood, 118 AFL games. Now, I did try and do some Googling. The Kersbrook page I found pretty hard to navigate today. And you were 221 when I wrote the article on you. So do you know what your end games tally was at Kersbrook?
I didn't play much the last few years. It would have been 230 or 40 probably, somewhere along those lines.
So you've ended up on 500. So you've ended up on about 585 to 590 senior games of football. It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
I would have cracked 600 because I probably played a bit of reserves at Collingwood and and my first year I played 7 or 8 games into it. So I would have cracked 600 easy enough.
Now there's probably another two that we've got to add to that. You were involved in the 1998 State of Origin and 1990 State of Origin teams.
Yeah, personally, they're probably I kind of hold them up as my personal biggest achievements that I had, like making those two teams. Once again, when you're a young kid growing up, and in the 80s, you go, gee, I want to be able to play a State of Origin. So to be able to do that for a couple of times, personally, as a milestone for something that I was aiming at, to tick those off was a pretty big highlight for me.
Who was your favourite player to play with in those State of Origin years, say in 1998? Because obviously you get to play with a few players from other clubs. Who was the one that stood out for you?
Well, it's kind of weird because Craig Bradley was a Port player. So, you know how you go, oh, he can't be a good bloke.
Yep.
He was and he was an old veteran, and I'd played on him and he just run non-stop. And to chat to him, he was the nicest bloke ever. So I always say, out of all he was fantastic to talk to.
Yep. Now, back on the Kersbrook, so 5 flags, is that correct, Beefy? Yep, so 5 flags, 15 years. So, as I said, 240-odd games. You know, and the James with Paul kicked a lot of goals as well. And, of course, Roger kicked 20-odd one game as well. So it was a real James family and a family, you know, obviously you're involved as the 5th generation Apple Farm there, huge part of Kersbrook. So that obviously, you know, meant just a hell of a lot as well. And I really wanted to emphasise that because, you know, in terms of how much the Kersbrook Footy Club means to the James family.
Yeah, well, we were lucky enough that we left, kind of to a degree left. Stopped playing there. I think my last game for Kersey was, what was it, under I was 14, I think, when I left, and then started playing at Norwood, you know, the next year. So I didn't go back. I played my first game, so I think A-grade game for Kersey when I was 35 or heading towards 36 that year or something. So I always said I was going to go back. It just took longer than I thought. You know, probably when I left as a 15-year-old, I didn't think it would take that long to get back. But, you know, I had a lot of fun along the way and, got back and, just enjoyed being at it. You know, you play footy because it's good fun and you get to spend time with your mates. So I kind of got to do that at the end.
And being elevated to the Norwood Hall of Fame night, as I said, privileged. And I mean that word very much so, to be there that night. And it really came out in how emotional you were to become become a member of the Norwood Hall of Fame and the 97 flag, and that your speech that night was absolutely superb, Brett.
Yeah, as I said, it's just one of them things. You kind of don't expect it. Yeah, you play footy because you love it. You don't kind of expect accolades like that. As I said, it was, it's one of those things that just comes along. But as I've said a lot of times, I was a Norwood fanatic growing up. So anything to do with the Norwood Footy Club, I was always pretty happy. Pretty happy to be around the place. So that type of an accolade was the icing on the cake.
I did keep reminding Brett that night that he was married to Alicia, that he was going to star in the next episode of Batting Above His Weight too. And look, we did have a bit of fun on Saturday too, Beefy. You're runner for Norwood under-16s, and I knew Archie was playing, and I admit that's the first game I'd seen Archie play, and I didn't realise how tall Archie was. So
how did that happen?
So I'm walking along, in the members' stand, and so I see Brett, and I've gone blood test, and Beefy's just turned and gone, lucky he's got my mannerisms, Malcolm, and there was some shocked look on these Norwood supporters' faces, like, how dare someone say that? Not knowing that I get on really well with Alicia. Alicia, Brett's wife, I love it. And she is pissing herself laughing. And she's gone, height comes from the grandparents' side, Malcolm, and sat down and spoke to Alicia and all that. And people then realised, no, he does actually know the James family well enough to use that line. Yes, so it was a bit of fun on Saturday, mate.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, he's a lot bigger than I am. So, I'll be honest, I wish I had his build.
Yeah,
it would have made life a lot easier rather than being the runt everywhere.
The
runt of the litter.
He was good on Saturday too, and I thought that's the best I've seen our 16s play for the year on Saturday too. So
16s we were really, really good. We've been talking about pressure, and that's the first time they've really been able to do it for 4 quarters. So it was a really good result, and hopefully we learn a bit from it.
And now we just got to wait and see with the college changeover. So there's probably be 10 or so changes to the sides this week, at least. So
the next few weeks, things change a bit,
Mate, we'll get you out of here on this one. I've done my homework on some of your coaches that you've been involved with, and boy, oh boy, it's a star-studded lineup. Neil Craig, Russell Ebert, Graham Corns, Tony Shaw, Lee Matthews, Neil Baum, and Malcolm Blight. That's a pretty fair resume, mate.
Yeah, I think, but I made the SA Hall of Fame, and that was in my speech. That's what I actually spoke about. I go, when you kind of grow up, you saw these absolute legends of the SANFL, and to go through it, and I think Barry Robin was the team manager, or not team manager, main selector when I first played for South. Like things like that, and you get to meet them and all that. So like to meet all those people, it's just you pinch yourself, and that it's kind of was funny. They're all fantastic people. Like all the contact I had with all of them, though, you just go, they could play footy and they're just really good blokes. So that's kind of out of footy. You pinch yourself some of the people you get to meet.
Would you pick one out of all of them that you bonded with the best?
It's kind of weird. Probably, I mean, we had a fair bit of success with Blighty. Craigie and Blighty probably taught me the most in regards to footy.
I know Rhodey as well. Peter Rhodes should have got better mention there as well. Yep.
Yeah, see, I played obviously the premiership with him, but because I was at Adelaide, I only played.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fair
a handful. I played 4 games or something. I think with Rhodey, I was just lucky that you only needed three to qualify. Yeah. So I think, so I could never judge Rhodey too much because when you came in, he said just play to a degree. But I said probably Blighty and Craigie taught me the most. And I said in terms, Blighty's he treats footy like it's footy. He just knows how it all works. And probably if you spoke to me, I'd be saying all the things Blighty says to a degree because that's who I listen to the most probably.
Yep, that's fair.
And obviously you're coaching at Kersbrook. Were you able to use some of those speeches and tactics from some of those great guys?
Yeah, I mean, I always say the best way to coach is actually to teach. I mean, if you teach your players, then you're trying to a degree, put yourself out of a job. Like if your players understand what to do in all the situations, that means you're coaching. You're coaching well. So I always said that with, Blighty probably taught me little things that you need to do, starting points and all that type of stuff. So that when I coached, I used to do the same thing to my players. I'd be trying to teach them so they actually knew the game. Once you know the game, you kind of understand when it works for you and when it doesn't and what you're getting wrong. So I think that's probably the best thing Blighty did. Because he taught you the game, when things didn't work for you, you kind of knew why. When it did, you kind of could understand why things, and it probably helped you adjust along the way.
Oh, Brett, greatly appreciated, mate.
No problem.
Look forward to catching up. I'll probably catch up with you on Sunday as well. So, yep. And thank you. And we'll certainly try and annoy Rog to get him on as well. So, greatly appreciated, Beefy. Thanks, mate.
No problem. No worries.
Thank you, Brett.
guys.
Have a good one.
Ta.
Please like, rate, and subscribe.
And mate, we've just had Brett James on, and wasn't that fantastic that he gave us a little bit of insight? And I suppose the best story that came out of that he'd signed to come back to Adelaide from Collingwood and thought he was playing with his brother, and lo and behold, he ends up at the Crows and now a dual premiership player.
Yeah, 3 days he thought he was a Port player. So, I love that story. And, who's to say there's not benefits out of drinking? Yeah. So,
it was a bit hard to sign something when you're on an end-of-season footy trip, isn't it?
Gold.
We did cover right at the end there that some of those coaches that he had as coaches, he played under as who's, didn't he?
Yeah, Matthews, Blight, Craig, Balm, some huge names.
They're definitely up there on that, what we call that Mount Rushmore every now and then of absolutely stalwarts of the game of footy, AFL football, that is.
Now we've had Brett. I will work and chase up Lord Voldemort, Roger James.
All right,
as well.
I'll leave that in your capable hands. All right, let's go on to Happy Days.
Happy Days.
And we kick off Happy Days with happy birthday to Nick Natanui. Thought I'd chuck this one in here. West Coast Eagles player, drafted number 2 in the 2008 draft, has currently played 213 games in his 15-year career, yet to register a game in 2023, but a brilliant 2021 and 2020 and 2021.
A great player, but you sort of forget he's still on their list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Probably his main asset was he was so good at roving his own ruck tap. So he was to go up and ruck and then be the midfielder as well.
Yep.
So he was just totally unique in that regard.
Did he change football in a way that ruckmen these days are much more athletic and seen as much more athletic because of the way that he attacked the ball?
Maybe a little bit, but while Grundy and Gawn more so are good at that, I think he was another class above in terms of do his own ruck work and rove his own tap. So he was unique as well.
Absolutely. Obviously, managed 8 games last season due to some knee problems. At no time soon he'll be adding to his 213 games. Some honest and transparent conversations with the West Coast at the moment surrounding the future of him. I mean, given the situation they're in at the moment, they could certainly really do with a player like Nick Naitanui being back on the list. Back playing.
But I think they're going to be down in the doldrums for a while. You'd think you've got Naitanui, Hearn, McGovern, Shuey. Geez, there's some guys whose injury records for quite a long time. It's been terrible. So you really can't see him coming back. Gaff. Does that get down to their fitness staff getting it wrong, or is it just a case of that they just haven't prepared as well as they probably should have? Maybe it's all contributing, but list management probably hasn't been as good either.
Pandemic didn't help.
Yes, that's probably part of it. You wonder if their recovery's been good enough. So probably a combination of a lot of things.
Absolutely. All right, we move on. Cricket, mate. 1978. The West Indies all but set to lose a test to Australia at Kingston until the riots came about.
It'd be good tactic to lose. We should have been doing that as Norwood supporters the last 3 weeks, Right, we're fit 10 minutes to go. So get out of this.
Absolutely. The sanctions, unfortunately, would probably be pretty high, but
quietly.
Totally understand. This week in 2015, Chelsea wins the 2014-15 English Premier League.
Yeah, they were a great side there for a while. Mind you, how much money was involved in getting them there. I've always got a bit of a bitter taste about Premier League in that regard, but they were incredible, but so they bloody should have been as well.
A lot of sports obviously don't have salary caps, and it's very interesting that the amounts of money that gets spent on some of these English players is huge. It's a bit like basketball and American football, NFL, and baseball as well. So, you just scratch your head and you're ineffectively buying premierships, aren't you? So, interesting. All right, baseball, 2002. Barry Bonds hits his 400th home run as a San Francisco Giant in a 3-0 win over Cincinnati. Bonds is the first player with 400 homers for the one team and 100 for another team.
Incredible.
That is amazing. The statistics on baseball, especially with hitters, if they're going at 30%, they're actually deemed successful.
Daryl Harper's cup of tea. The Harps, I'm sure
he'll be all over that one.
I reckon Harps will message us for including that. He'll be very happy that was included.
And I know he's a bit of a Red Sox man, and we're actually off the bottom of the AL East at the moment, and the Yankees are below us. So I'm as happy as Larry that that's happening at the moment, but there's a long way to go in the season. And to finish off, mate, I thought it's pretty topical at the moment with the NBA Finals, and we'll cover that a little bit next week as well. In 2015, Golden State Warrior Steph Curry named MVP for the 2014-15 season.
And Steph Curry's probably, the
Front
flavour of the
again.
month as well. 50 points in Game 7. First time that's ever happened. Over the age of 30. There's that many stats that's happened. Incredible. So, appropriate that Steph Curry's mentioned well
tonight.
At the moment.
Yeah, and with the finals being on.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll cover that in more depth next week. All right, mate, let's scoot into the extra time.
Extra time. Big finish.
All right, let's roll through these pretty quickly, mate. Some umpiring decisions on the weekend in the AFL left us all sort of scratching our head once again. I thought it was probably appropriate to bring it up in this segment.
I actually had Razor Ray was on SEN today, and flabbergasted. I only had a prang listening to him where he tried to say that the umpire in the clash between Murray and Fogarty tried to say he was perfectly positioned. Well, no, you dope. No, he wasn't. If he had been, he would have been totally side onto the contest, seen the hair, seen the
contact,
contact too high and paid the free kick. Now, it was only a free kick. There wasn't a report. People are trying to say ever since.
No.
A few people have said that, and I couldn't. Michelangelo Ricci nearly caused me to have a prang as well.
I think if Fogarty takes his eye off the ball, I think you probably got justified to maybe question whether there's a report there. But you had two guys committed, eyes on the ball. It was a football collision. Totally get it. But the umpire, I thought, was actually in perfect position to give it. But it was the out of
on. He wasn't. He needed to be. But it's only got to be one or two steps to not be in the perfect position. When someone who does an umpire looks at that and goes, "Yeah, he was right." No, he wasn't.
Yep.
He was still needed to be two steps back further, and he got a bit too close.
Right.
He got out of it. He got his angles wrong.
Right.
So
that's that's understandable.
Yep.
And then basically in the same instance,
this is the stinker. This is an error in law.
De Goey could have taken the ball and probably taken all three people out that were walking off the ground.
Shocking.
Decides to sort of kick it along the ground and just dribble it and go, I'm not going anywhere near it. And a deliberate out of bounds is paid against him. That one made me scratch my head too.
That's an error in law. That was really poor umpiring.
Do you think the umpires in general had a bit of a bad week across the board?
Yeah,
I know we don't want to.
No, they did.
I know we don't want to bash umpiring, and we understand that there's a tough job to do, but it just sort of felt across the entire weekend there was some decisions that left us scratching our head. Hence the reason why I put it on the list.
I don't think they've got the positioning right for the four umpires with a turnover and this stupidity of wanting an umpires out wide so they don't collide in players. Well, it means you get in the wrong position.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not side on. And with the position, I know I've mentioned it before, you can be in the back play out by the boundary, the ball switched over the far side, and you can't even, on a motorbike, you won't get in the right spot. So it's just so dumb.
Yep.
And spoke about it with Bob Schofield and that, we're just both shaking our heads. And
is that an adjustment period to the four umpires that they've got to get used to, or is it still a matter of positioning that needs to be better?
It's positioning.
Okay, totally understandable. Hopefully we don't have to bring it up again. I'm sure that the people that be in some of those umpiring positions will make some slight adjustments, and we all know that the first couple of weeks, or in this case, first 5 or 6 weeks, it is a bit of an adjustment period with all the rules and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll keep a bit of an eye on that, but hopefully we don't have to bring it up.
Yeah, and they didn't have a great game in Sydney either. So, it was a poor weekend of umpiring.
Yep, that's okay. Mate, a bit of fun here. We're going to have a bit of fun with a trade, re-sign or retire, and my 3 players that I've put on the list tonight, Dyson Heppell, Michael Walters and Rory Sloane.
Yeah, I did see this one out and about. Look, I think it depends where the teams finish up at the end. Now, if Essendon keep improving and Heppell comes through, at the moment, you're going retire for Dyson Heppell.
Yep.
That's the comment at the moment. Well, who's to say he doesn't come good? And then, because I thought Rory Sloane really struggled the first couple of games. I thought, geez, the game's caught up.
Yep.
And he's been very good the last month. So I reckon it's too early.
Yep.
At the moment, you're going Heppell retire, re-sign Sloane, and see where Freo finish to maybe trade Walters. But that could dramatically change from here.
Absolutely.
So
mine is probably re-sign Rory. I think that his value as a mentor to Adelaide is more value that he is there. Obviously, having a year off with a knee injury has probably reinvigorated him a little bit, so there's probably a little bit there. I'm probably trading Dyson Heppell. I think he's got some currency still, especially for a team like GWS or Gold Coast.
I think Gold Coast, that got mentioned at the start and then that didn't happen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether anyone will look at him.
And Walter's as exciting, and he's directing a bit of traffic at Freo. I just don't know whether he's that same mentor as what, say, Rory Sloane is to the Crows.
Yeah.
So that's probably where my head's at with that one there. All right, mate, this one's for all sports. Once again, racism. It has to stop. It's brought about again by the AFL a few weeks ago with Jamara Ugle-Hagan from the Western Bulldogs. Yeah. We've just had one for the NRL this week. This has to stop. This is just wrong.
Yeah, we all agree it's totally wrong. It's obscene, it's barbaric, it's idiotic, etc. But I'm buggered how you stop it.
Absolutely. But it's education. It really just needs that education. But I'm in the same boat as you. How do we stop it?
Well, you've got that, and then you've got this idiotic booing of Horn Francis at the moment. You know, it's just sheep mentality. It's It's just so
Crazy.
dumb.
We definitely need to stop what's going on at any level of sport. Doesn't matter whether it's local teams playing here in SA or all around the country, up to the AFL and the champions status of some of those clubs. You just need to stop it. All right, we move on, mate. The AFL, the ink is barely dried on the 19th team in Tasmania. We did bring this up a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to touch base on it a little bit now. Where and logical would the 20th team be?
I thought it was really interesting where the guy who's been the main person who did the study on Double A tonight and all that, where he was very, very upright going, well, no, the 20 teams a long way away. So, look, Canberra or far Western Australia are the two spots.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Territory, just purely because the time of the year is the problem. It's not a team up there. We'd love to have a team up there.
Yep.
Purely the Aboriginal talent up there.
Oh, it'd be scary, wouldn't it? How good it would be.
But whether that can then work with the weather, that's the one iffy there, and then it becomes the other two.
Yep.
So
obviously, we talked about Tasmania being, almost 30 years of trying to get in, and per head of population is probably something that, and participation is something that they had to take into account in Tasmania. We did talk about Northern Territory there, but I think the most logical one is either in far northern Western Australia.
Yeah, that's
there
my
seems
thoughts.
to be a bit of a consortium that may be coming to the party there. They do have the population for that and also the infrastructure to make that happen. We did follow on from what Norwood was bandied around at the beginning of the season, that they may be an opportunity for the 20th team. But again, it just gets down to, bit of per head of population and obviously money.
Yep,
Huge.
very much so.
All right, we'll leave that one there and we'll keep an eye on that one anyway. Mate, coaching, we'll stick with the AFL. Coaching changes at the end of the year. I've put down 3 clubs that could potentially change. Port Adelaide, Richmond, West Coast. And the other one that I didn't put on our list is probably Gold Coast.
Yeah, look, I think Port, we've just got to still wait and see. At the moment, you'd say Hinckley will end up getting another, but you just got to wait and see what happens. I think Hardwick may depart Richmond. I think they might go, well, hey, it's time for a fresh voice.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think Simpson will end up leaving West Coast.
Okay.
As a betting man out of those, I'm probably going West Coast 1, Richmond 2,
Port
or
3.
maybe even Port a little bit closer,
right.
depending on what happens.
Let me throw you a bit of a curveball here, and I'm not sure, I haven't listened to a lot of programs, but I'm going to say out of these 4 clubs, they're all going to have new coaches next year, but those 4 clubs, apart from one of those clubs, is going to have a current AFL head coach. So my thinking is Ken Hinckley will go to Gold Coast.
I think that is a distinct possibility.
I think Damien Hardwick will end up at Port Adelaide.
I think that is a distinct possibility.
And I think Adam Simpson will end up at Richmond.
I reckon that's a maybe.
Done. I'm glad we're sort of half thinking on the same wavelength there. But I just see that is what's playing out a little bit at the moment. And I think if Port Adelaide are keen on obviously bringing in a coach that is a little bit different in style and tactic, I think that Hardwick is going to get the best out of the current Port Adelaide group, whereas Kenny is getting the best out of them now, but I just don't see him taking them that one step further. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's a maybe. I think it's actually interesting. I wonder whether I suspect Bass and Carr are doing it together in the box and Hinckley now down on the boundary line. That seems to be working.
Yep.
But then do we go a little bit overboard now? If the kick from Sydney carries half a metre more,
yes,
Western Bulldogs, that one chip over the top works.
Yes.
So suddenly they've lost 2 or 3 more. It's completely different. So to quote the great coach, the best coach I've been involved with, John Griffin, that it's a fine line between pleasure and pain.
Absolutely. And you look at who they've beaten as well, that, they beat up on West Coast, which most teams are probably going to do a bit at the moment. And
Adelaide kick straight, they're top at the moment. So it is such a fine line.
sliding doors moments.
Yep.
And to finish us off, mate, SANFL, a tribunal, big ban for a big bump in the Norwood Glenelg game, 6 games.
Brady Searle, it is a terrible bump. Now, The only thing I will give him is that Jack Saunders did fumble it, so he was a little bit further down.
Yep.
But
it was clumsy.
It was clumsy. As Jeff Wilson said to me, he said, that's going back to the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That's an 80s thing, and that's gone. I cannot believe that Glenelg have appealed it.
Yep.
I am stunned that Glenelg have appealed it.
Could they get any more because they have appealed it?
Well, I don't think they do, but I reckon if they did, they wouldn't have appealed. Yeah, actually, no, you can actually. They're saying at full level. Yeah, that's right, because that's why Norwood accepted Binders 2 instead of he would have got 3.
Yep.
If they'd gone. So yeah, that is true. So yeah,
it could actually backfire. I mean, it's not a great look.
No,
if you've seen the footage, it wasn't a great look.
It's horrific.
Yep.
I actually hope he does get extra because I think it's absolutely dumb to appeal it. Why can't we go, no, I did the wrong thing. Jeez, I stuffed up.
And he knew it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the footage.
Oh, it's horrendous.
He hit him and the hands were up straight away going, oh, look, I've completely excused the French here. Fuck this one up.
Oh, and, you could see Boydie's reaction where it wasn't a case to go and belt. I think Boydie was stunned.
Yeah, it was sort of
his
like...
eyes were popping out of his head.
I've got to remonstrate a little bit, but I can't
believe
he's done it, yeah.
Yeah, look, as I said, I'm stunned Glenelg are appealing. And, yeah, I hope he does get extra. I'm being honest.
That's fine, and that's what we're here to talk about, mate. And like I said, I saw the footage and I was
terrific.
just absolutely stunned. Yes, the young fella did the wrong thing, but, that stuff, we know. We've seen it at AFL level. We know that it can't be done, and it was just a clumsy act that doesn't belong in the footy field. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. We'll report back on that one next week and see how it goes. All right, mate, we've come to an end of a huge episode once again. We thank Brett James for his time tonight in our Past Players, Past Legends interview. And as per usual, mate, we promise to do better. And also this week, may the 4th be with you.
Yes, and look, for those people who have a crack that it's too much Norwood stuff, well, I reckon purely getting the story how Brett ended up at Adelaide instead of Port was worth it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Gold.
And we do actually have some names on our list that we're going to follow up with.
We are trying to get other people. There's been twice in the last month where we did have people from other clubs lined up and they pulled out. Well, I go to Norwood off the bank for a couple of people there just to quickly there. So, yeah, there has been other things have happened.
Absolutely. We're hoping to get a couple of Port Adelaide Magpies past players. And we're going to have a bit of a look and see if we can get some Sturt players as well and go from there. Yep. Mate, it's been a pleasure once again. We thank you all. Like we said, we'll do better next week.
Thanks, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.